Hi, ladies. Today is Sunday, August 2nd, 2020. Um, as you know, it's been over a year since it's 55 weeks. I'm still counting weekly, I know. And, I'm just kind of thinking about things over the last year. And one of the things that stands out the most to me is breastfeeding because I'm still doing it. And, at this point, I think well, I was going to say go 2 years, but I don't know if I can guarantee another year. Um, let's just put it that I'm going to go as long as I can go. It is recommended to try to do 2 years. Well, it's recommended at least 6 months, and if you can get there, and then try to get you to go a year. If you can get a year, then people try to go 2 years is really ideal. But the good thing about making it to a year is that your baby is now old enough to drink other milks, whether that is cow milk, almond milk, goat milk, some other sort of milk that they can drink. I was actually kind of shocked when Michaela's pediatrician told us that she can now drink almond milk. And I'd been giving her almond milk prior to her turning a year, but never to drink. I'd been mixing it into things, whether it was to make oatmeal or, I don't know, some other dish. So she had already been exposed to that, and coconut milk and even cow milk, because I don't actually drink cow milk that often, but I would use like yogurt, and she had cheese and all of that before she was a year old. And she doesn't have any lactose or any known food allergies. So I was kind of shocked when the doctor said that instead of, cow milk, I could use almond milk. But she did say that almond milk does not have as much fat. So that's the reason that a lot of doctors and people like to use cow milk, is because cow milk has more fat. And so she was saying that it doesn't have as much fat, so you'd have to supplement and add fat in her diet, like avocado and stuff, because that's a good fat, not just like ice cream fat, but like avocado fat, or maybe from peanut butter or nuts. Things that I guess are considered good fats. So I have been adding almond milk into supplement. However, I am still pumping. I've been pumping, for a year off and on, and in addition to nursing. So I'm still doing all of that. And I've added in almond milk because somewhere around her birthday, my milk supply did seem to decrease on its own. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if that's something that always happens, or if it was because usage has changed, but it hasn't. I'm pretty much still doing what I was doing up until that point. But for some reason, 12 months came around, my body was like, all right, we did this. Let's stop. But my mind hasn't caught up with that yet, so we're still pushing forward. So if I need to, I do supplement with some almond milk. But again, I do give her breast milk first. And, I'm trying to get her used to almond milk, because she seems to really enjoy it so far. I mean, she drinks it well. She has not had cow milk to drink, and she has not had any other milks to drink. But I just found it interesting, because I always thought you had to do cow milk if you were going to a milk. So to do almond milk was just an interesting fact. As long as you supplement with, or you add additional fat to the diet, because almond milk does not have as much fat. But it also doesn't have as much protein either. So that is a thing to be mindful of. I don't think that if I was only giving her, if I wasn't breastfeeding, I would not just do almond milk. I think I would probably go to some sort of organic breast milk. I'm sorry, cow milk. I do some sort of organic cow milk, some brand, and because it does have more protein, and it does. Oh, you know what? It might be a good brand, Fairlife. because it's supposed to have more protein and you know, less fat or sugar or something. But anyway, so I've been breastfeeding for a year. And if you recall, I have flat nipples. I've always had flat nipples. You know, I used to think there was something wrong with me until I realized that there were other women who had flat nipples and even women who have inverted nipples, which I didn't even know was a thing. And so, you know, in the beginning, I also had a breast reduction. So in the beginning, it was the concern where I thought I wouldn't even be able to breastfeed because I had the breast reduction. So while I was pregnant, I was like, oh, I'll never be able to breastfeed. That was my thought. And then once I realized I could breastfeed, and then it moved to, oh, you know, baby won't latch. So on the day Michaela was born, I actually had a lot of colostrum, and I was really excited because I thought, oh, okay, you know, I thought the only concern was going to be that my breasts weren't going to, either I wasn't going to produce milk or I was going to have too much scar tissue from the surgery to be able to get the milk out, because some women have that and then it ends up being very painful. If they had a breast reduction, they may be able to produce milk, but their ducts may be blocked or may be blocked to coming out, and so then it's just trapped and they have to dry it out because it's painful for anyone who, you know, had engorged breasts. And so I'm thinking the only issue was going to be now just, well, I didn't think it would be any issues. I was like, I got milk, it's a baby, baby do what baby do, right? Like, what issues would there be? And that's when I realized how hard breastfeeding is. Like, no one tells you that. So unless they've had breastfeeding issues, and I didn't know anyone who had them. So then I realized all the things that could make it a struggle. And that one, which was my initial struggle, baby didn't latch. So Michaela did not latch in the hospital. And at that time, I thought that breastfeeding was going to be insurmountable. Like, it was no way I was going to be able to do it. Like, I couldn't even understand how people did it. She wouldn't even begin to try to latch. And it just seemed so foreign to use my breasts in that way. So everything was just weird about it. But I wanted to give her breast milk, so I was just pumping, and I knew breast milk was, you know, the best, so I was just pumping and pumping. But I never gave up on trying to latch her. So at 7 weeks, so I'm sorry, yeah, 7 weeks, I'm right. I was gonna say 7 months, but I was like, no. So 7 weeks, she finally latched. Almost 2 months old, she finally latched. So for those who've had that struggle or are struggling with baby latching, don't give up. And look at some of my prior videos during that time when I was struggling, and what helped me, even though I hated it, was an SNS. So you may find that that helps you too, because it taught Michaela to use, she may have had nipple confusion at that point, and it kind of, from being exposed to bottles, and not latching initially. So I think that's an else help to teach her that, you know, breasts could be milk too, or food too. And we stuck with it, and eventually she did it, you know. But a concern of mine after, well, while we were going through all of this and in the hospital, was because I had flat nipples. I thought, what was she really latching onto? But babies don't latch onto your nipple. They latch onto the areola area, the area around it. So even though you have flat nipples, they can still latch. Apparently women with no nipples, if they've had them like damaged because of surgery or like, you know, whatever damages a nipple, they can still breastfeed as long as there's an opening, because the babies latch onto the areola. So I'm not saying it's not hard or it won't be difficult, but once you understand the concept of what's going on, it's a little easier. And I think what helped me was when I would get ready to breastfeed, I'd kind of pinch the nipples to help them protrude and pinch that area. And maybe it wasn't necessary, but it helped me understand, and I felt more like she was getting an area to latch on. And I still do that. I actually still do that. Like, and I hear that that works even for inverted nipples to help them protrude, to pinch them, to kind of get them to protrude out. And then I found that once she was actually latched, after she finally did latch, that the nipples, like when she would unlatch, when she was finished or she came off, because in the beginning, even once I would get her to latch, she was constantly coming off. So I had to constantly relatch her until she figured it out, until she was comfortable, until she finished. I could never tell when she was finished. I still, like, now she's just older, she stops, I'm like, we're done. But I had the hardest time telling when she was finished because she was constantly coming off, and I was just relatching her, relatching her, relatching her, relatching her. But like I said, when you pinch, or not pinch, but like, you know, pinch but not painfully pinch your nipples, there it helps them protrude. And I found that once she would come off, my nipples would still be they had protruded, and they stayed where they were, not flat anymore. And so when she came off, they were the way, I guess, normal nipples would be. And so it was like they knew what to do, like the body knew what to do. Now, I'm not saying it always works like that, but again, nipples aren't necessary. But it seems weird when you think about breastfeeding, you think nipples aren't necessary. When baby latches to if the baby's latching on your nipple only, it's going to be extremely painful. One, they're probably not getting the type of milk because they're closing up the spout, so to speak. They're closing up where the milk is coming from. So by latching on it, they're actually closing it and keeping it in. And that's going to create other problems. Not only for the fact that your breastfeeding isn't going to be successful, but two, you're not getting the milk out. So you might end up with one of those, like a clogged duct or a mastitis or whatever it's called. And you don't want to deal with that. So yeah, baby's supposed to latch on areola, not nipple. So if you have flat nipples, if you have inverted nipples, if you have no nipples, there still is, you could possibly breastfeed. So I'm just thinking back over this year, and I look at my breastfeeding journey and all the highs and lows. And then she got teeth after we finally got used to. I was finally thinking, like, I was feeling myself, like, yo, I did it. And people were telling me after she wouldn't latch after the first few weeks that she was never going to latch. Her doctor told me she was probably never going to latch. But don't believe them, because it's actually never too late. It's never too late. You might be able to get a 7-month-old baby to latch, it's never too late. They can still do it. As long as you still producing milk, they can still learn to latch. So don't give up on that. I also had help from a virtual lactation coach, and it was actually really great because Michaela was small. She was a newborn. I did not want to take her out to the lactation specialist. Some will come to your house, but that's a lot more expensive. So I actually did it virtually. My insurance covered it. And with everything that's going on, a lot of insurances are covering telehealth and that type of thing. But Medela has something you can pay for where you can get 24/7 virtual lactation consultant help. So in the middle of the night, if you're feeding, they can help you. And that's awesome. I thought about doing that. I did not do it because my insurance covered one, but it wasn't 24/7. I had to make like appointments. But, excuse me, I don't know. Like dry throat, I think. But anyway, just don't give up. If it's something you want to do, because it's a huge commitment, and I understand if it's not something you want to do. At this time, with the world being some crazy, breast milk, having the antibodies helps to protect your baby with immunity and building their immune system. So I definitely recommend it, but I completely understand women who choose not to or don't want to stick with it, because it's hard and it's lots of downs. There's some ups, but there are lots of downs. Like I said, when we finally got her to latch, and then my milk supply wasn't what I needed it to be, and then I was supplementing with formula still, so I was doing breast milk and formula. And then, it was always like that, even when I was pumping. But once she latching helps build your milk supply, because babies are more effective than a pump. But then when I finally got my milk up to a place where it was at least acceptable, to give her only milk or only breast milk all the time, then she got teeth. She got, and then that presents a new issue because with the teeth, you're, sorry, they keep sliding sideways. I don't know. With the teeth, you have, your baby may bite. Some women, thankfully, thank God, I have never had her draw blood, but some babies bite down and bite and cut you, and you may bleed. And listen, I get stopping then as well, because some babies get teeth early. So 4 months, I've heard, and maybe even earlier, Michaela got her first tooth at 6 months. So we were able to get to the 6-month mark, and yeah, she started biting, but she never broke skin, and I was able to get through that and past that. But listen, she has 8 teeth, and she still latches down sometimes too hard, and it's painful, and people say take them off the breast when they bite and give it back to them later, and this and that. There's lots of techniques. Some people say pop them. Some people, they bite, bite you, bite them back. I mean, not in regards to breastfeeding, but still. You read things, there's lots of ideas on what to do out there. But my point is, if you want to do it and you want to stick with it, I'm not guaranteeing it will be easy. There will be lots of ups and downs, but stick with it. Get some support. There's also lots of support on Facebook, lots of breastfeeding groups, lots of them. Some for just Black breastfeeding, some for any type of breastfeeding, first-time mothers breastfeeding, all types of breastfeeding groups. So get in a group, find support, because breastfeeding is not just physical, it is also emotional and mental, and people don't realize that until they struggle with it. And I think that was the thing. I didn't realize that. I just thought it was a natural biological thing, and so like she would do it. And then I realized how emotional it was and how mental, and breastfeeding is a labor of love after labor. So I just was thinking about that and wanted to do, encourage people who are going through any breastfeeding struggles, whether they've had a breast reduction, they have flat nipples or nipple issues, or baby that won't latch. I've had it all. And we still made it a little over a year, 55 weeks. So you can do it. And if you really need encouragement, contact me. I mean, I can help as much as I can. I'm not a lactation expert at all, but I've been through it. So, whether it's milk production problems, baby not latching, flat nipples, biting, breast reduction. I've been there. I'm still there. So, all right, ladies. I just want to encourage you, stay safe, and I will talk to you soon.